we can now see that we have a contact in our array. Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to use AWS CDK to build a mailing list. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start a new project. It's nice and simple in CDK. So we've got CDK init app, and the language we're going to be doing this in is TypeScript. That'll go away and take all the dependency we need and build the project structure for us. Okay, that's completed, created the project structure for us. Now before we get going, we'll need to install a couple of libraries. First we'll install the AWS Lambda and the AWS Lambda types. npm I AWS Lambda, npm I @types / AWS Lambda, and finally npm I @AWS CDK, and we just need the client SES v2. So if we go over to the file explorer, we can open bin and go down to the simple mailing list. We're going to comment back in this line here. So this will just make sure we've got our environment variables set correctly. We can now open the lib directory, and we'll see here we've got some example code boilerplate stuff that we can take out. So we can take this out and just going to bulk import the imports that we will need for this project. So we'll need AWS Lambda, the AWS Lambda Node.js module, API gateway, the duration, SES, and IAM. You can see for some of these I like to just shorten them down, makes it a little bit easier in the code. So AWS has something in the SES service called contact lists. So we're actually going to create a contact list. So to add a contact list, what we're going to do, we're going to start off with const, and we're going to call this CFN contact list. This is going to be equal to a new ses.cfn contact list. Now the scope of this is going to be this stack. So we can just type this. Let's give it a name. So we'll go my DNF contact list, and then we can add some properties in here. First property we're going to add is the contact list name, and let's go with example contact list name. Next we can add a description. Let's go example description. Now we can add some topics. So we'll add a topic. We'll just go with the one topic to start with. So in our topic, we're going to need to add the default subscription status, the display name, and the topic name. So we've added our three properties there. We've got the default subscription status as opt-in, the display name as example topic display name, and the topic name as example topic name. We can also optionally add a description. So let's just add an extra description, and this can be our quick description. And that's our contact list created. Okay, next we're going to want to create our node Lambda function. And we're going to call this const, and it's going to be sign up function. And that's going to be equal to a new Lambda node .node.js function. Again, the scope is this, and let's just call it simply Lambda function handler. We'll add the properties. Okay, first off we'll have the runtime, and we can go with node 18. The entry, now this is going to be a file we haven't yet created. So we'll go Lambda is the name of the folder that we'll put it in, and let's call it simple sign up.ts. The handler I always go with and just call main. Timeout, this will be duration dot seconds. We can just stick 5 or 6 seconds in there, that's fine. bundling. We won't have any external modules for now, but I'll put it in case we need them later. No node modules either. And we can say that we'll minify this. Finally, we'll add the environment. So I'm going to add 2 environment variables to the Lambda. We'll go with region. That's the CDK default region. And the other variable will be our contact list name. And this is going to come from CNF contact list dot contact name, contact list name. And that is our Lambda function infrastructure created. With the infrastructure created, we can next then add the permissions to the infrastructure. So we're gonna have to, we can't grab the ARN particularly easily. So we're gonna grab the ARN a bit more of a manual way. So ARN, AWS, SES, and we can go process dot to the CDK region, colon, CDK default account, colon contact hyphen list / CNF contact list dot contact list name. And that will give us the ARN for the contact list. So we can now add a IAM policy statement. New. So the action we want to give the Lambda will be to be able to create a new contact. So it is called create contact. And the resource it will be on is the ARN that we've just created above. Finally, we can actually add that policy statement to the Lambda function. We're going to do an attach inline policy. We're going to call that add contact policy. Add the comma. And that's now giving our Lambda function the permissions that it needs to create a contact inside the contact list that we created above. In order for us to actually hit the Lambda function, we need to create a very simple API gateway. Now this one's going to be, for demonstration purposes, it's going to be fairly open. So our const gateway is going to be a new API GW dot REST API. That's our new gateway. We're going to create, first of all, we're going to create a version of the API. It's going to be by adding a resource to the root. So add resource, we'll just call that v1. Then underneath the v1, we want to add another resource. And we call that sign up. We're just going to enable cause. This will just allow anything to actually access this API for now. Obviously, you in production, you would add some real cause settings. So we're going to also then have to add our Lambda integration. This is nice and easy in CDK. We're going to go API GW dot Lambda integration, and it's just going to point to our signup function. Finally, we'll actually add the method to the end of the API. So API dot add method, and it's going to be a post request with our Lambda integration. So that is all the infrastructure created. So we now have our gateway, we have the permissions on our Lambda function, and we have the actual contact list generated. So it's just get rid of that space. So you can remember when we created the Lambda, we said that the entry point was going to be Lambda simple signup.ts. So what we'll have to do is we'll come over to the Explorer. We'll create a new folder and we'll call that Lambda. And then in Lambda, we'll create a new file. And that's going to be our simple signup.ts. Okay, so I've already written the code for the Lambda function, so I'll just paste it in and I'll talk it through. So a couple of imports, fairly standard ones for our AWS Lambda, but the additional one we'll need is the SES v2 client and the create contact command. So we said that our handler was going to be main. So in main, what we're going to do is we'll create a new SES v2 client and we'll call that SES. And we'll do a couple of checks in our API. So first thing we're going to check is make sure we've got a body. If we haven't got a body, we're going to throw in an error, no body. We'll then parse the body. If the body hasn't got email in it, we'll throw another error that says there's no email address. And then we can actually create our command for creating a contact. So when we create the contact, we're going to have the contact list name, and that's going to be our process env contact list name. Remember, in the Lambda here, we made this as an environment variable. The email address will be from the body object.email. I'm going to say unsubscribe all to false. And we're going to give them a topic. This is our example topic. Again, we created that topic here. So topic name, example topic name. So we go topic name will be example topic name, and the subscription status will be to opt in. They're going to opt in to getting emails about this particular topic. We can then send off that SES command. So ses.send. We'll await for the response, and we'll quite simply just return a 200 status code saying done. If we're done, if any of the errors through, we'll catch them and we'll just send the error message back for now. Just helps with debugging going forwards. Okay, so we can actually build this code. So we'll do npm run build. That'll run the TypeScript compiler on it. Cool, that's done. So we can see that all the TypeScript code has now been compiled also into JavaScript code. Next, we can actually run CDK deploy star, because we only have the one stack in this project. And that'll actually start to deploy our code. So it'll ask us if we're happy to make any of these changes to the policy. We'll say yes. And the deployment is complete. Okay, so with the deployment complete, we can actually use the AWS CLI to check the list contacts. So they should currently be empty because we've only just made it. So AWS SES v2 list-contacts, and the contact list name will be the name that we gave it, which was example contact list name. So when we hit enter, that should return us an empty array. Yep, that's good. Now, because we are not creating the API gateway behind any of our own domain names, we need to find the value that has been given to our API gateway randomly. We can do this by coming into CloudFormation, clicking on the stack and clicking outputs. We can see here it's this HTTPS P60 ends in /prod. Now we can open up a Postman, and we can paste into here that URL, and then on the end of the URL we want a /v1/signup. Now if we don't pass the body in, when we hit send, this should work, but it should return our no body. That's because in the code, remember, we added that check for the body. So we'll click raw JSON, and let's just check the next one. So we should be able to just give an empty body, no email address. That's good. And we can add an email address in. So email, let's just go test email at 123.com. Hit send. And we get the done message. That's good. We go back to the terminal and run the command again for the list in the contacts. We can now see that we have a contact in our array. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something today, and hopefully you can go away and implement this. If you've learned something, if you can hit like and subscribe, that'd be brilliant. See you again next time.